Please welcome to the stage First Lady of the United States of America, Dr. Jill Biden, in conversation with Executive Vice President of Milken Institute Health, Esther Krofa.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Biden, it's such an honor to have you join us today for this important conversation.
Thank you.
We know that you've been leading this initiative and work around improving access to research for women, really advancing the progress for women's health research. President Biden and you launched an initiative in November of 2023, the first ever women's health initiative for women, which is fantastic. We also know, of course, that this is such a critical issue because the data show that we face persistent underinvestment in research globally for women's health across many different disease conditions that affect women uniquely, disproportionately, or differently. And these gaps in research, of course, have limited our understanding of how we treat and prevent disease for women. I'm really interested to learn from you what initially sparked your interest in this topic that's led you to lead this effort over the last year?
Well, I guess initially, I've always been interested in women's health. It actually started back in 1993 when 4 of my friends were diagnosed with breast cancer. And I felt so hopeless. And I thought, what can I do? And I'm an educator. I was teaching community college then and now. And so actually, I decided to come up with a program that I went into high schools. And I talked to young women about breast health. And actually, one of my friends died at that time from the disease. So it really sparked my interest. And then I guess it was just a couple of years ago. It was just an ordinary Saturday, actually, in this extraordinary life I've been living. And I was reading the paper in the morning, and I was reading about really how the United States loses about $2 billion a year because of women in the workforce who call out because of symptoms of menopause. And it really was kind of shocking to me. And I started to think about it and women's health. And then I started learning more about it. And I learned that really research for women's health has really been, we haven't had that much. And it's been really so underfunded. So most of the knowledge I think that we have on research for women's health really has, and this may shock you or you may know it. It's been based on men. So for the past, I don't know how many decades, most of the research they've done have, the men have been the subjects. So we've been taking medications and prescribed based on men. And so I felt that, women are looking for answers. I know that I've been looking for answers as a woman who has gone through menopause and gone to my doctor and said, gee, do I get on hormone therapy? Do I not? What should I do? Many of you may remember, although I do see some men in the audience, the big scare with, hormone therapy. Does it cause more breast cancer? Does it help breast cancer? So even I went to my own doctor and I said, hey, doc, what should I do? And she said, well, I don't know. What would you like to do? And I said, what do you mean, what would I like to do? Because you're the doctor, I'm depending on you. So I had my own experience to go by. And so she's the woman really who leaves the doctor's office with more questions than answers. And why do women have more migraines? And why do women, we all know that heart disease is the leading cause of death for women, but heart attacks don't present in the same way in women as in men, so more women die. So there were no answers to all of these questions. So I can remember going to my husband and saying, Joe, we've got to do something about this because, this can't go on. I mean, women deserve answers about their health. So, because this is really an economic issue, I think, for women, and globally, really, the research and the funding and the products. And so that's why I'm excited to talk about this today, and because we have to advance women's health. I mean, it has to be a priority. And we have to, I mean, first and foremost, I think we have to improve women's lives. And I think that really, Esther, that's what it's all about.
Well, so much of what you've talked about, I don't know that the general population, individuals are aware of the data points that you just mentioned in terms of disease presents differently in women than in men. In fact, for women, many of us are not even educated about our own health and how we ensure that we're tracking those symptoms in such a way that we can communicate with our providers and our physicians. And so the attention that you're bringing to this issue is so critical because it's really not just a problem that's happening in one part of the world, it's a problem that's happening really all over the world. And you really hit the nail on the head when you talked about it is an economic issue. When we think about the number of women who leave the workforce early, predicting 137 million women could come back into the workforce and stay longer if we're able to address these issues and these sets of challenges. And so as we talk about what women's health is, maybe we can just describe a little bit of that, because most people think that women's health is women's reproductive health, it's about sexual health, but we're talking about heart disease that shows up differently, Alzheimer's that shows up more in women than it does in men. We're talking about autoimmune diseases that are more in women than are in men. So as you think about your research gaps and the areas that you would like to see, where are those gaps for you that you think we really need to address going forward?
Well, I think that, you know, when it comes to women's health, when we're in our childbearing years, you know, our bodies are considered like these great miracles. But then as we age and we go from middle age and beyond, it's like our bodies are these mysteries, you know, things that we can't figure out. So we have to figure out certain things, like why do more women than men get migraines? Or, you know, heart disease is the leading cause of death, and many of, you know, the heart attacks go undetected. I've heard from, you know, many women who have had heart attacks, and it isn't diagnosed because they just don't know the symptoms. So I think one of the things we have to do is really separate the data between the men and the women and study primarily women's diseases. And then we have to, you know, design our health studies according to that. And, you know, we have to bring everyone to the table. And I see, you know, I'm sure everyone here, they're private investors, they're scientists, there's nonprofits. We all have to come to the table, and we have to work together, I think, to make sure that we can make advances and strides in women's health.
Absolutely. And certainly one of the areas of gaps, as you talked about this, clinical trials and clinical research. We have seen significant progress in some areas, but it's not enough, right? Since 1993, having the National Institutes of Health, United States, mandate that women need to be part of clinical studies. For almost 100 years, all of our clinical studies were on largely males, white males, and that's actually bled into animal models. I heard a little anecdote that was funny. Women are not little men.
Or big men. We're neither.
But we really need to understand the biology, what's different in the biology for women, and how is that biology different for men. And of course, you've really been spearheading the investment in women's health research and tremendous accomplishments with the administration. Over $1 billion US newly invested in just this last year alone in women's health. Let's give a hand of applause for that. And so I would love for you to talk about what those research priorities then are for you, seeing that level of investment from ARPA-H at over $100 million, the DoD, $500 million from DoD, and NIH, $200 million. I mean, just incredible. What do you want to direct this toward?
Well, I think the incredible thing was that I went to Joe, my husband, the president.
I think they know.
And I said, Joe, this is really important. And, you know, as a relates to most women's issues. I mean, he was like right on it, and he said, okay, let's, I want to make sure, just like you're saying, that we've got to put more money into research. And so he directed all the government agencies to make this a priority, and he got right to work. And so, like you're saying, through DOD and through NIH, I mean, literally, and this happened in 1 year. And if any of you have worked in the United States government, or maybe any government, I mean, this is a pretty incredible thing that it got, it got started and moving so quickly, I think. So all these agencies are now working on, and I hope that, I'm just praying it continues, really, because we have to prioritize women's health. So the United States is just beginning this research process, and and then we've given out so many grants, and I'm telling you, the researchers, it's just incredible, some of the things they're going to study, like endometriosis. So if you know anything about endometriosis, which I'm just learning about, usually it takes years for endometriosis to be diagnosed. But we've given money in these grants to these researchers to do this blood test, where really it's the first of its kind, where they could really diagnose endometriosis within days. It's like this real breakthrough that's happening. And then, like I mentioned, migraines, why do women get migraines? So we've just put money into that research. And then ovarian health. I mean, look at our aging population. And we have to know, what, especially after menopause, look at how many women have so many questions about osteoporosis, about hair loss, weight loss, mental health. All these questions have never been studied before. So this is a real breakthrough that the government has taken this on as a priority. And I have to say, I'm just so proud of Joe that he jumped right on this and just went forward with it. And really, if you think about the future and you think about healthcare in the United States, I mean, how great would it be if women could really have virtual care, that they could just go on to Zoom and find and meet with doctors and find out some of these answers, or get diagnostic tests that could be done at home. Just like some of the things that we're starting to do, like with colon cancer, for instance, so that women can be more involved, I think, in their health. And that's really what's important.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, as we think about what you've been able to catalyze along with the president, there's been a response that's come from the private sector.
It's been really exciting.
That must have been exciting for you, just to see the community stand up and say, wow, we have a champion on this issue. We get the level of visibility on this issue. And now they're really excited to work on it.
Well, and so many researchers, when we put a call out for grants, I mean, there were so many researchers who said, I want in, and this is what I want to study, and this is what, I want to learn. And I think we're ready for this. And it really spurred this whole new interest in women's health. And
even ARPA-H, as referenced a bit earlier, they heard from 34 different countries. Were you surprised by that? That 34 different countries responded?
Like I'm saying, I think now is the moment. Now is the time. And I think that women are just hungry for information. So Esther, like when you get together with your girlfriends or your family, what do we talk about? Health. That's all we talk about. It's not like somebody's talking about their aches and pains. It's like, hey, what are you doing for menopause? Are you trying these supplements? Or what did your doctor say about doing the hormone patch? Or what did your doctor, I mean, we're learning from each other. That's not the way it really should be, because we're getting misinformation a lot of times. We need to have really evidence-based research. And I think that's what this women's health research does, to provide the funding so that we can get the answers.
And it's absolutely critical when you think about the population in the world. Almost half are women. In some countries like the US, it's over 50%.
That's right.
That are women. And the lack of evidence-based data, responses, products to service those women, it feels like a missed opportunity, but it really has broader economic impacts as a result of that. We really need to solve for that. So I've been really excited to see the response that's come from that private sector and the community around these sets of issues, and to see the federal government's leadership from the US perspective to de-risk these potential innovations that can serve potentially as a catalyst for what we can scale going forward. The question, of course, for everyone is, how do we continue this momentum? We've had this incredible last 12 months. We've seen the over $1 billion from the federal government's investment. We're seeing the response that's coming out of biopharma and startups and women's services, products, companies and investors and the like. And what we always want to see is that that continues over time. So as you think about what you've been able to lead and going forward, what is your call to action? What would you like to see those who are here in the room, those who are watching online, where do you want them to direct their attention?
Let me see who's in the room here. So, really the momentum now is on our side. We've just started and we have so far to go and so much more to learn. And, in 2021, the Boston Consulting Group estimated that really the revenue from women's health research, we have money, we want answers, we want products, we want things that are going to make our lives simpler and better and for longer, because women are living longer, but we're living with chronic pain. So we're not, even though we're living longer, we're not really happy that, because of the lives.
We have that decade of poor health. So we live longer, but we spend those last 10 years in poor health compared to men. Right?
That's exactly right. So, we can really, all of us in this room, there is the potential here to change the world as it relates to women's health. So I really want to call on everybody here in this room, in the months, in the years that follow, to really get involved and really try to organize and put money into research and pay attention, and let's move this forward and let's close the current gaps that occur. And I know that as Joe leaves office, as we leave office together, I know that one of the things that I'm going to prioritize is women's health and funding for women's health. And so I hope that all of you here will join me in that commitment to women all over this world, because that's what we're hungry for. We need the answers, we want the answers, and Esther, I think you have to agree, we deserve the answers.
I would say we deserve the answers. No one in this room or anywhere came into the world without a woman. We need to prioritize women's health.
So thank you.
Just to follow up on that call to action, absolutely agree. I'm so pleased that the Milken Institute, responding to the initiatives and others, really established a women's health initiative, really to continue to galvanize our community with the sets of stakeholders that we bring together to say that let's not let our foot off the gas. We need to continue on, and we need to prioritize very specific initiatives and projects going forward, because just as we spent the last 100 years focused on men and many years before that, we need to then catch up and spend the next many decades focused on women's health. And if we are able to do that, as you've talked about, the research says we can unlock $1 trillion in the global economy by 2040 if we're able to continue to work together.
So I hope you investors are hearing that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your leadership. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you for prioritizing women's health. And we certainly look forward to all of you walking in lockstep with us to make sure that we are not losing the momentum here.
For sure. For sure. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Ed.
Please remain seated as we set the stage for the next session.